Welcome to High Infidelity, the best cheating videos on YouTube. If you enjoy this content, remember to subscribe and turn on notifications. Now let's get into the video.
Found out that my wife cheated on me, so I got revenge and had an affair with her sister. I met my ex-sister wives when I was 23 years old, and the connection grew swiftly, and by 26 I had a son and a daughter and had married. However, my ex-wife had an affair within months of our marriage, and to make matters worse, the guy she strayed with had gotten her addicted to heroin. After I confronted her about it, she stated she was going to seek treatment, but she instead fled in the middle of the night. I haven't heard from her in 4 years, and the last I heard, she is still with that man and homeless in Las Vegas. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but with my emphasis on keeping it together for the kids, I don't have the time or desire to track her down after what she did. In the end, I got a divorce in my absence. After the incident, though, I had a really nice connection with my in-laws. Every other weekend, my kids stay with their grandparents on that side, and they still treat me like a son. I still attend to Christmas parties and am well liked by the family. Nobody speaks about my ex anymore, mostly to avoid worrying my children. My eldest, my son, is deeply affected by his mother's departure. He's now 9, and I had to get him counseling when he told me he wished his mother was dead. She had been verbally abusive at the end, when he was around 5 or 6 years old. Anyway, in the year after my ex's departure, her sister and her boyfriend began visiting the kids often. They knew I worked a lot and would babysit as practice since they wanted to have their own children. My kids adore them and have been spoilt by them, which I didn't mind since we could all need a little cheer. They married and were madly in love. Her spouse, on the other hand, was killed in a job accident soon after the birth of their daughter. As one can expect, it has been tremendously difficult and unpleasant for everyone concerned. I followed my sister's lead and started taking her kid to give her time to herself when things were too much to handle or she needed alone time. She's been in bereavement counseling for a few years, but she still wears her ring and says she can't picture ever dating again. I speak to her about him a lot, and she's come a long way, but she's still madly in love with him. I can't comprehend the suffering she's going through. We've been a more consistent presence in each other's life over the previous 2 years. My kids adore their aunt, and I invite her over for supper at least twice a week. My daughter and her daughter have become close and like spending time together, so they have sleepovers. I've moved on from my ex, but the thought of dating someone as hazardous as their mother has kept me out of the dating world. I'm not sure when it occurred, but I gradually started to soften toward my SIL. She's a wonderful mother in light of what's happened to her. She's one of the nicest individuals I know, and her sense of humor constantly makes me smile and laugh. Then I realized I was physically drawn to her. I've always felt a little terrible about it since her late husband was a dear friend, and she's clearly still in mourning, so I've kept it to myself. We've spent more time together since COVID began, since social alienation has caused us to lose touch with most other people. Nothing romantic has ever been addressed, and I try not to flirt, but last week after the kids went to bed, I prepared us a few drinks, not enough to be drunk on, but she said she'd rather stay the night, so I took her sofa. This morning, I woke up to breakfast, and the 4 of us felt like the kind of family I've always wanted. She even kissed my forehead, something she doesn't usually do. I still didn't say anything, but when she went, I discovered my kid in his room, calmly playing with his toys. I asked him if he was okay, since he seemed upset. He tells me flatly, as only a child can, that he wishes Sil was his mother. I sat down with him and asked him why he felt that way, and he told me a long list of reasons, including her being polite to him, and the fact that she never screams at him. He enjoys visiting her at his grandparents' house, and she enjoys drawing drawings with him, something I had no idea they did. By the end, my heart, which was already fluttering for this lady, had become much more tense. When I sent them off with their grandparents on a visit, I attempted to broach the matter with her parents to get a sense of how people might react. I made a joke about her and I behaving like a married couple at times, and they didn't laugh. They were sort of standoffish, nice, but either they know something or they don't approve. It's becoming too difficult for me to ignore or pretend it's not bothering me. I'm madly in love with her. Either I have to kill it and stop thinking about her, or I have to find a method to get past this position and tell her everything. If anybody out there has any advice on how to approach a widow, particularly one who was married to a buddy, with this kind of aim, I'd be grateful. Update. Oh my goodness, this blew out. First, thank you for all of the amazing prizes. I'd react to your posts, but they closed mine, which irritates me since I want to respond to as many people as possible. Thank you for all of your love and support. I'm in love with an angel and will keep you updated. Anyway, does anybody know of a subreddit where I could post this that won't get locked? I'm sorry that folks took the time to leave me messages and that I can't respond or communicate with them. When I checked this, I was like, holy hell. I need to get supper and the kids to bed. But if anybody could recommend a site to publish updates in the future where things aren't so stringent, I'd be grateful. First and foremost, I'd want to thank everyone who provided me advice on how to continue, as well as thoughts and things I may possibly say to my ex-SIL. That's what I ended up doing. Shortly after I made the first post, I realized that my children were spending Sunday night at their grandparents' home, and that they usually invite my niece, Sil's daughter, to join them. I permit these biweekly visits because I believe it is critical for them to establish a positive connection with their mother's parents. Sil, on the other hand, lets her kid go since she adores playing with my daughter. So I figured we'd both have a free night. Normally, I'd play game or go to the gym an additional night, but I felt it would be the ideal time to Sil without the kids around. So I texted her, "Hey, kids are out this Sunday, was thinking you may like to have supper." It was a reasonably fancy restaurant that reopened for outside dining about 2 months ago. I never invite her out to dinner, and we're nearly never alone together, unless there's a kid in the next room. She replies she'd love to, and my worry begins to set in since now I have to act on my emotions. When I inquire whether she'd rather meet at my house and take one vehicle or meet at the restaurant, she replies she'll come by my house first. I'm a little cleaner than usual, dressed up but not overdressed. She arrives and my God, she's wearing a really gorgeous evening gown with makeup, not something she normally wears. "You look really gorgeous." I had to have been slack-jawed for a second, haha. We make small conversation and congratulate one another on how we look, but I still don't have the courage to bring up the subject and she isn't pressing it. Dinner was fantastic and they had a live jazz-type ensemble performing. I will definitely return to this location. She says this is the first time she's truly had an adult social event that didn't include her kid in a few years, and I say it's about the same for me. We're laughing, joking, conversing, and casually caressing each other here and there. I can't seem to find my nerve, and I'm frightened of sabotaging this moment, so I simply settle for having fun. But as we're walking away, my mind breaks and I'm like, duck it. And as we rise to return to the vehicle, I offer her my arm, and we stroll back to the car arm in arm, no awkwardness, no one noting it. I open her door and want to drive her back to her vehicle. She comes to a halt as I open the door. She urges me to stop and that she wants to kiss me, despite her apprehensive demeanor. There was no alcohol during dinner, therefore this is all her fault. So I drew her close and kissed her. I can't really put into words how fantastic it felt to finally touch her. Well, the kissing has been going on outside this restaurant for at least a half hour, with her leaning against my vehicle. When we eventually take a break, we exchange a few more romantic glances before getting in the vehicle and driving back to my house. I've never been happy than when she's holding my hand when I'm driving. I admit to her that I'd had emotions for her for a long time, but I didn't want to frighten her away because of the horrific things we went through. She tells me she's been carrying a flame for nearly 6 months. I had gone on a few Tinder dates at the time, and since we were just friends, I detailed what a shambles those encounters were. She tells me that she became incredibly envious and irritated that I was seeing these females, and that it was about that time that she realized she had formed emotions for me. As it turned out, I didn't contact her because of her late husband, and she didn't approach me because she was scared I'd see too much of her sister, my ex-wife, in her and hate her for it. After we came home, I let her in, and we chose to resist the need to get right into bed and instead sat on the sofa hugging and chatting about what we needed to do to make this a functional relationship. There were a few tearful moments there. We discussed a bit about her late spouse and where she is in the grieving process, and I told her that I don't want to hurry her, and that if she needs time, I'll wait as long as she needs me to. She says she feels like she's at a position where she can love again, that she's gone beyond feeling guilty for having emotions for me, which was a problem for her. She then brought up her sister, as well as the obvious issues raised in the comments section. What would we do if X ever showed up around here again or tried to re-enter my children's lives? What if she returns transformed and apologetic? Would I accept her back? I told Siddle that it was a no-brainer that I'd forgiven her for cheating on me, but I'd never forgive her for what she did to my baby. Before his mother began cheating, using and lashing out at him, he was a sunshiny and joyful youngster. He's doing better today, but his demeanor and negativity for someone so young bothered me for a long time. Sil was worried about how he would respond to her since, unlike our girls, he is mature enough to grasp everything. I urged her not to tell him since it would embarrass him, but he recently told me that he wanted his aunt was his mother instead. We claimed we were going to take it easy and not rush things, but the kissing resumed, and because we were in private this time, we gave up fighting to keep out of the bedroom. I'd had dreams of petting her face in the morning throughout the entirety of my affections for her, and this was one of them that I eventually got to play out. Moving ahead, we will develop date evenings and seek to strengthen our already solid foundation. When we finally inform our friends and family that we're a relationship, we're going to do it jointly. But that's where I'm at right now. That concludes my update. If this subreddit permits it, I could make another to discuss how the parents, in-laws, and children react to the news. After 2 years of hoping she was mine, she is now. This can't go wrong.